Well, you answered your question with your last word. The institutions are set up to make us fail. That's the sad travesty, not only to make us fail, but it seems to me that there's a purposeful dumbing down of the American people. When I graduated from high school in Boston, Massachusetts, I want you to hear what I had in terms of knowledge. In mathematics, I had algebra, plane geometry, solid geometry, trigonometry, and calculus. In science, I had physics, I had biology, I had chemistry. In language, I had 4 years of Latin, 2 years of German, 2 years of Spanish, 1 year of French. In history, I had ancient history, medieval history, modern history. When I graduated from grammar school, I knew every country on this earth and what those countries produced and their people. So when I graduated from high school and came south to go to a teacher's college, I never bought a book in 3 years because everything they were teaching, I already knew. So now I look at children today that can't read, children today that can't write, children today that are missing so much. Is because America is being gradually dumbed down. And if I may put it in a sort of a vile way, and I don't mean to be vulgar, but your heads are being put into your crotch because everything is sex, everything is shaking your backside, everything is this kind of behavior that makes humans to act like the lower animals. And as long as your head is in your crotch, you don't see what's happening to the world around you.
Welcome to Evening Exchange, and also welcome to Minister Farrakhan. We are very pleased that you are here with us. Tell us, why are you here? Why are you in Washington, D.C.?
Well, first, it's the nation's capital, and it is the place where on October 14th, 15th, and 16th, we will be celebrating the 10th anniversary of the historic Million Man March. We are interested in mobilizing and gathering as many as we can on the mall, but we're not so interested in a march. We're interested in creating a movement that places on our shoulders the responsibility to change the reality of black life in America. And so I've just come back from Africa, where I represented the diaspora at the 5th meeting of the African Union, where 53 African heads of state have come together to move Africa toward the United States of Africa. And after I finish my tour in the United States, I'm going down into the Caribbean, because there we need to tie Africa, the Caribbean, Central, South America to North America and create a dynamic movement that involves the mobilization of poor people. And the last thing I will say on that is W.E.B. Du Bois talked about the talented 10th. We have some of the best educated black people anywhere in the world. But the more educated we are, we get moved away from the condition of our people into corporate America, into other areas that create a disconnect between the gifts, skills, and talents of those natural leaders of our people. So everywhere that I've gone and talked to our brilliant young men and women, they are pained where they are, and they want to help the masses rise from where we are. So what is needed is a programmatic thrust that will link the talent of our learned to the condition of the mass poor, that our people can be lifted from where they are because there is a saying that my teacher, Elijah Muhammad, taught me, that no one man can rise above the condition of his people. So if our people are down and we can ride a nice car, live in a nice neighborhood, well, that might give us some feeling that we are better, maybe we have arrived. But then in Chicago just 2 weeks ago, one of our greatest young pastors, a man by the name of Reverend Dr. James Meeks, he just built a $50 million enterprise. And he's also a state senator and the leader of the Black Legislative Illinois Caucus. And he was coming from his newly built edifice from Bible study with his wife and his son. And as he was driving, he pulled around a squad car, and the squad car stopped his car. He got out of his car to go to the officer to say, "Officer, I am State Senator Reverend Meeks." And it was a sergeant, and the sergeant said, "I know who the F you are. Get back in your car." And Reverend Meeks started to say something again to the man, and he pulled his gun, put it to the Reverend's head, and said, "I told you, get back in your, your effing car." The wife was hysterical, his son in there pleading, "Daddy, come on, it's not that deep." But the next day, Reverend Meeks said, "If they would do this to me, what are they doing to my little brother or sister who doesn't have the position that I hold in society?" That drives the point home. No matter how great Oprah is, she's in Paris, she goes to the store a little after the hour to get some perfume or something, and Miss Oprah was denied entrance because she was 15 minutes after the store had closed. So these are reminders that no matter how high you go, if your people are down, we are down. So it behooves us all to think for the masses of our people, to concern ourselves with the plight of the masses of our people. And that's why the Millions More movement is so important, because it has brought together for the first time the total spectrum of black thought, from black civil rights leaders to black academicians to nationalists to Pan-Africanists to socialists to activists and to revolutionaries, and then to fraternal organizations and Masons and Elks and whatnot. All of us have agreed that the condition of our people is so bad that no one leader, no one organization can solve it. It's going to take all of us coming together to think and plan and act on behalf of the whole.
And certainly, I'm sure that one of the things that you all are going to be deeply concerned with, as are virtually all black people at this point in the world, is the condition of our brothers and sisters in the South as a result of Hurricane Katrina and the aftermath.
That is correct.
Speaking of poor black people, what do you think of the kinds of conditions that our people faced in New Orleans and the other areas so hard hit, and the government response, or lack thereof?
Well, I think that Katrina was merciful, because Katrina started hitting the coast of the United States in southern Florida when she was a Hurricane 1. She did tremendous damage in the southern part of Florida, then moved into the Gulf. And as she was in the Gulf, she was moving very slowly, picking up strength from a 1 to a 2 to a 3. And if you watch the news, as I watched the news, they were saying at a certain point that it is directing toward New Orleans and the Gulf. And it seemed to me that if FEMA knew that it was building up that kind of power, and the weather people were saying it's headed directly for New Orleans, and what a number 4 and number 5 hurricane would do to that area. And then they talked about it was in a bowl, it was under sea level, and if water came over that, the Lake Pontchartrain and the Mississippi and whatnot, that bowl would fill up. And they were talking this, giving FEMA and the president time to get things in place so that when it struck, they could have moved trucks into areas to get the people out. The poor people couldn't leave. They wanted to leave, but there was no transportation. They had none. So the television focused on the looters. Well, if you don't have food and you don't have water, you don't talk about thou shalt not steal when the first law of nature is in force, which is the law of self-preservation. So they broke open the stores and they took food and they took water. Of course, some took TVs. I guess they needed a TV, but there was no electricity. They couldn't plug it in anywhere. Well, and some did some silly things, but to focus on that rather than on the sick and the dying and the devastation of the poor. So what I have asked Sister Renee, as a Muslim, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, if you have a bowl of soup and your brother has none, half of your bowl belongs to your brother. So I've asked all of the Muslims in the Nation of Islam, we're going to go to the Astrodome, to the Superdome, to wherever our people are housed, and bring them out and bring them home. Sit them at our table, feed them, clothe them, shelter them, open our schools to them. And I'm challenging, not really in a negative way, but saying to Christian America, look, Pat Robertson, you made a big mistake calling for the murder of Hugo Chavez. Okay, let's put that aside. You say you're a good Christian. I want to believe you. But Jesus said the thing that he would use to judge nations, there's a yardstick, and that yardstick is this. When the disciples said to Jesus, Master, when were you hungry and we fed you not? When were you naked and we clothed you not? When were you out of doors and we gave you not shelter? And when were you sick and imprisoned and we ministered not unto you? And Jesus said to the disciples, inasmuch as you have not done these things unto the least of these, my brethren, you have not done it also unto me. It's time now for true Christian love to manifest itself, true Muslim love to manifest itself. It's one thing to send some money down. It's another thing to send some water down. All of that is needed. Clothing is needed. But what is really needed, come out of there into my home and lay in a bed with a roof over your head. Whatever I'm eating, God will make space at that table. Come on, if you're from the South, you know that no matter what happens in the South, they would open their door and there was always something in the pot for an extra person to come and sit down at our table. How beautiful it would be if all of those brothers and sisters found a home and the churches opened their doors, the mosques, the synagogues, all our black organizations came together and encouraged our people, let's go get a family and bring them home. And I guarantee you, the self-hatred, the self-doubt, the self-negation that is in our people, when they see us doing that, then love will begin to build in our community, respect and gratitude, and we might produce out of a tragedy a triumph, that those who died and those who lost their homes shall not have suffered in vain, but it gave not only the government a trial, but it presents us with a trial. Let's do what God would be pleased that we do and save the suffering people of those three areas.
Some critics have said that they felt that the lack of government response or the slowness of the government response had to do with the fact that these were primarily poor black people. Do you agree with that scenario or no?
I really don't know, but I know that racism is real, and I know that it rears its ugly head, and it's never absent from decisions that bankers make in loaning money. It's never absent from positions that are offered to black, intelligent people who are qualified. It's never absent from promoting black people in the police force or firemen or wherever we are. Racism is always there. So I don't doubt that racism is present. I'm wondering, Sister Renee, that look at all the money that we've given to the Red Cross, to United Way. I'm talking about black men and women coming to the plate, spending their money and giving sometimes into the millions of dollars. Now, when I called for the Million Man March, and you saw all those black men with those dollars in their hands, the white press said, "What are you doing with the money, Farrakhan?" And Farrakhan said, "I'll give you an audit of every nickel, every dime, and every dollar." And we had 3 CPA firms, and within 3 months, we came to Washington, held a press conference, and laid the audit signed off on by 3 reputable CPA firms, and the press never let our people know that the minister gave his word and lived up to his word, because distrust, fear, and envy are control factors that our former slave masters and their children use to keep us in line. If they had told black people, Farrakhan did what we didn't do in 1963, then nobody asked for an audit of the people in 1963. Where did the money go to? In 1983, where did the money go to? But when Farrakhan, a Muslim, said, "I will give you an audit," I offered this to the people, and I fulfilled my word. Now, I want to see the books of the Red Cross opened. I want to see United Way's books open. Since you're getting money from people all over the country for those who are suffering most, then I want to make sure that every nickel and dime is not spent somewhere where it doesn't need, but the people that need it must get it. And I'm going to find a legal way to open those books to make sure that what we give goes where it belongs. I have had calls from little mayors in Mississippi whose cities and towns were devastated. They have not seen FEMA. They have not seen the Red Cross. They are under the radar. Since you've raised over $200 million, okay, and the government of the United States is signing a bill for $10 billion, good. Then where's the money going? We want to know, since it really is our money anyway. You're not giving your money. It's the taxpayers' money, the $10 billion, and it's people's money that's in the Red Cross and every charity. And I'm not maligning the Red Cross, but racism is there as well. So we want to make sure that all those black people that you saw down there suffering, that when it's time for them to get insurance, when it's time for the insurance companies to pay up, when it's time for them to get what they justly deserve, that they get what they deserve, or else we will have to do something to make sure that that never happens again.
And we have with us in the studio young people from Howard University, for the most part, who are a critical part of that never happening again, and making sure that the racism that you have eloquently described is fought against and minimized generation after generation. And so we now turn to some of them to get their questions and thoughts. Yes.
Good afternoon, Minister Farrakhan.
Good afternoon, my brother.
My name is Ray Baker. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. I'm a senior. My question to you is, earlier this year, you attended Tavis Smiley's symposium on the state of Black America. There, you and other black leaders made a vow to have a contract with America. I want to know, where's the progress with that contract, and has there been any follow-up amongst you talking with other black leaders such as Dr. Dyson and Dr. Cornel West on that matter?
Thank you. My brother, it was not a contract with America. That is what Tavis put before us, but the Reverend Dr. Joseph Lowry changed it from a contract to a covenant. And my words were that I don't think we can make a covenant with America before we make a covenant with God, a covenant with each other as leaders, and a covenant with our people. And if you remember the scripture that reads, if my people, which are called by my name, will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven, forgive their sins, and heal their land. God is talking to us, and he does not lie. So why would we trust those who have lied and not trust him who has never lied? In fact, he said, before one jot or tittle of my word will fail, the heavens and the earth would pass away. So I'm comfortable making a covenant with God first, and we have agreed to that. Second, a covenant among the leaders. The reason that black folk are divided is because the leaders have been divided, and we stand up in public speeches and speak against each other, not to each other. We don't get in the same room with one another. So it's like an incestuous kind of thing. The civil rights groups, they're over here. The nationalists, they're over in this group. Those who fight for reparations and the Pan-Africanists are in another group. The revolutionaries are in another group. The academicians are in another group. The politicians are in another group. And we are scared to get in a room together like we're going to give each other spiritual aids or something. So now, through the Millions More movement, all of us are coming into a room, and we recognize no one leader, no one organization can solve the many problems of our people. It must be a united front. Brother Tavis is working on that covenant. He has put up money. They've gotten scholars together to write the covenant. And when that covenant is ready, all of us as so-called leaders are going to come into a room to sign that covenant in the presence of our people, so that you will know that any one of us that failed to live up to the words in that covenant will go right before the American people, our people, and say, this person is no longer fit to stand in front of black people. Get on out of here. And that's the way it's got to be if we're going to make progress. We in leadership have to be accountable to the people that we say we desire to lead. Thank you for your question.
Next question.
Afternoon. My name is Shani Harris from California, and I'm also a senior. My question to you is the issue of the black community and self-sufficiency, especially with recent comments from Bill Cosby. I would like to know your response to that, especially with the Hurricane Katrina and the lack of government participation and efficiency and timeliness on that? And furthermore, where does that place on the agenda in a Millions More movement?
Oh, such a wonderful question. Well, you know, Bill Cosby has paid his dues to this society and to us. He's a man in his late 60s. We don't know how long Bill is going to be with us. He has many more years behind him than he has in front of him. He was talking to a black audience, and he was talking about our young people not learning to master language. He was giving us a spanking, okay? I think he's earned the right to say what he earnestly feels, but in that black audience, the media took it and brought it into the broad mainstream, and it looked like Bill Cosby was talking down to us and not mentioning what white folks had done to put us in the condition that we're in. All of us know where it started. But the question is, we can't keep looking to them. It's our responsibility to get out of the condition that 400 years of slavery and mistreatment put us in. Okay, now the second part of your question, self-sufficiency. We have been too dependent on others to do for us what we could unite and do for ourselves. So those of you that are here, you don't want to leave Howard going out begging your former slave master's children for a job. Then you would be no better than the slaves, because the slaves were looking to their grandfather to stay on the plantation, to pick the cotton. No. We're past that now. We get $750 billion out of this economy. We're not poor. The Bible says, my people are destroyed, not because they're black. They're destroyed for the lack of knowledge. So once the knowledge comes, then we learn how to pool those resources and become self-sufficient. One more thing on that, and then I'll close. Have you ever noticed how many people are in our community providing us with goods and services that we are not in their community providing them with nothing? How do you think they think about us? If everything that we need, somebody else is providing it. This is not only in America. If you go in the Caribbean, if you go to Africa, who are the business people in the Caribbean? It's the Indians, the Arabs, the Chinese, and some blacks. In Jamaica, all throughout the Caribbean. If you go to Africa, the same people are doing business, and we are the consumers. It's not that we're inferior, but slavery and colonialism destroyed a very important part in our human makeup. And in this institution, Howard, when this institution was formed, they got up in Congress and said there are 3 things that they will never teach black people, even though this college was set up for black people. They said they're not going to teach us the science of business. And I don't care what you learn, you don't have the real science of it, because if you had the science of it, you would never come out and look for a job. You'd come out of here and create a job for yourself and your people. They said they're not going to teach us the science of warfare, because business is a form of warfare. And if you got business and don't have the science of how to protect what you have, somebody will take it from you, as it has been done. So self-sufficiency must be a part of this. And the last thing you ask, what is the Millions More movement going to do about all of this? Well, you know, if it's on our mind and our heart, when we come together like this, we're coming together to change that paradigm into a paradigm of self-sufficiency, and only then will others respect us as we want to be respected, because we're not begging somebody else, we're doing it for ourselves. Thank you for your question.
Next question.
Peace, Minister Farrakhan.
And peace to you, my brother.
My name is Messiah Ramkisoon. I'm a senior public relations major, originally from Trinidad, West Indies. And my question is, what major focus is being placed on youth involvement, as well as the enhancement and upliftment of youth culture at the Millions More movement? And also, what is the process for youth artists to be able to voice themselves at the march?
Thank you so much. I will be on my way to Trinidad, God willing. I hope to speak at the University of the West Indies in Trinidad, do a lot of radio and television. I will be in Barbados. Hopefully I'll be in Venezuela and in Brazil and in St. Martin, as well as Haiti and Jamaica and the Bahamas and the Virgin Islands. Brother, from the Caribbean, let me say to you and to my brother that introduced himself to me earlier from Jamaica, the West Indies is being marginalized. And when you come and get a fine education, when you go back, if you go back to Jamaica or Trinidad, what you want to know is there an opportunity for you to use what you have learned to lift that island nation and make it successful in serving the needs of the people? And what you will find is that the sugarcane industry is gone, the banana industry is gone, and really what most of the islands are depending on is tourism. So if you want to continue to be waiters, cooks, cleaners, for those that got money to spend it on a little liming or vacation in the West Indies, then the West Indies is going to be marginalized. And that's why I'm going to plead with the leaders, as there is an African Union, there must be a union of the islands of the Caribbean, because none of those nations can stand independently on their own. They can only stand collectively with Cuba in the mix, and Venezuela and Guyana and those on the northern part of South America that go into the Caribbean. Enough said on that. Your question is youth. But I had to put a little in there for Trinidad and Jamaica, man. I want all you to know you got work to do down there. Now, you know my parents are from there, and I was a calypso singer long before I became a Muslim. And I had big hit on the calypso, what they call it, hit parade.
Was it Calypso Jean?
No, it's the Charmer, they call it.
The Charmer, yes.
That was charming. But anyway, if youth are not involved in this, we need to quit it. You are the thrust of what we're doing. Youth involvement is there. Youth have to be at every table. Every time we sit down to plan, the voice of youth will be there. Now at the march, there has to be youth expression. Somebody from the hip-hop genre is going to express to us, to the world, where we are. The hip-hop brothers and sisters are really world leaders. They don't know it, but the whole world is vibrating and pulsating to hip-hop. And even in countries where the culture of America is not wanted, in Iran, when I was in Iran, those young people were vibrating to Snoop Dogg and Ice Cube and whatnot. So you are natural leaders. What you must do now, young brothers and sisters, is accept the responsibility. You don't say, I don't want to be a role model. Ain't nobody asking you to be a role model. People are asking you to step up to the plate and accept the baton of leadership. And those of us who are your elders, some of the young people say, oh man, ain't nobody, 35 or older won't tell me nothing. Them old people, Well, ain't nobody older than God. Talk to me about that. And he's fresh in every generation. So let's not confuse stupidity with age and irrelevance. The Bible says, old men for counsel, young men for war. Closing that question, Harry Belafonte this past week called for a council of elders on the 1st of September in Atlanta, Georgia. Oh, some of the greatest civil rights activists, academicians, women and men were there, the elders. They brought young people along with them. The bottom line, we realize we've made mistakes and even errors. But in a scientific experiment, failure is not failure, because every failure in experimentation leads you closer to the truth. These elders now are looking at what they've done and what they have not done, what they've tried to do and where we failed and where we've had successes. And what I saw and heard in that room was that the elders said, we are ready to lay our life on the line for you all, that you will have a foundation from what we have learned. So now that meeting is going to be seconded with a second meeting that's coming up right after the Millions More movement in, I think it's Epps, Alabama. And we're bringing all of the young people to that meeting where we're going to sit and listen to our youth. And then the elders are going away with what the youth share with them and come back with the youth to plan the future development of our people. That's why we call it a Millions More movement, not a march, because there must be plans in place that you can act on when we are dead and gone. As we all are dying, whether we want to go or not, we're getting up out of here. So we might as well, it's hard, you know what I mean? But when I look at these beautiful young people, it ain't bad. We gotta go because time don't allow none of us to stay, and time won't allow you to stay. But if a plan for spiritual and moral development, educational development, political development, economic development, social and cultural development, and health development is put on the table with your help, then we can die. As Willie Lynch is dead, but Willie Lynch's madness is still being carried on by us. So somebody is working the plan among their people. So we have to develop a plan and work that plan until the movement takes us to where Martin Luther King said, free at last, free at last. That's where we're going, with the help of God and with your help as well. Thank you for your question.
And just before we get to the next question, I'm very happy to hear you talk about the intergenerational part, which is so necessary to our future. And that's one of the reasons that I, along with Bill Cosby, had started the National Visionary Leadership Project, which is about elders and young people coming together. As a matter of fact, a number of Howard students are part of that. And every opportunity that there is to bring elders together with young people and have the different generations really strategizing about the future is an exciting thing, a tremendously exciting thing.
It gives life to us.
Absolutely.
When you get to my age,
which is
16, 72 going on 73, but when you get to my age, you realize your mortality. And you realize that you must leave something for the young. You can't say you love your people and don't leave something for them to stand on that they can grow beyond you. And you all are not supposed to be what we are. You're supposed to stand on our shoulders and go beyond where we are. And you know what has happened? The disconnect between the young and their elders. You keep repeating the same mistakes that the elders have made because we're not counseling where we can guide you in a way that you don't make the same mistakes that we have made. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We've done a lot of things that can help spring you into your future with wings. And then when we lay down and take that big sleep, we can do it with a smile because what's coming after us is better than we are.
Next question.
Good afternoon, Minister.
Good afternoon, sir.
My name is Marcus Jashim. I'm a senior legal communications major from Brooklyn, New York. The last Million March, it outlined several goals that it would like to achieve by addressing issues like economics, politics, and inequality. Over the past 10 years, to what extent do you believe that these goals have been achieved?
I'm going to answer your question with a law in physics. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Every gain that we have made has been negated by that opposite force. Quick example, Brown versus the Board of Education, Thurgood Marshall, the great victory ending segregation in public schools, separate but equal. Well, 50 years later, we're still segregated. Why? Because there was a trick in what they proposed. Jesse Jackson just had a march in Atlanta on the 6th of, I think it was, no, August 6th. Because even though they gave us voting rights, there was a little clause there that he focused on, that if we're not careful, what will come out of that would be the protection of our right to vote. So he focused on that. In the 13th Amendment, which gave the slaves citizenship, is another little clause that says, yeah, you can have citizenship, just don't get hooked in the criminal justice system, because the moment you are charged with a crime, you lose your citizenship status. And so blacks are being herded now, starting from the little 5-year-old girl that had a bad day in school, and they shackled a baby and put her in handcuffs and then put her in leg irons and put that girl in the back of that police vehicle, and the mother came, and they would not give that child to her mother. So they're being sued. But the point is, they started arresting your grandparents, then your parents, then young adults. Now it's gone all the way down to the babies. At some point, we got to stop this. And so your question about what happened, we had 25,000 orphans that found homes. 1.7 million black males voted in the next election. The crime rate and the murder rate went down in the inner cities. Prisons were adopted, as many of those black men that left there became entrepreneurs. And if you listen to my speech, I asked them to join a church, a mosque, a synagogue of their choice, wherever spiritual values were being taught, and I asked them to join an organization that was working for the uplift of our people. More black men went to church after that than before. More black men joined organizations than before. But what was the equal and opposite reaction? In the last 10 years, look how many factories have closed in the inner cities, sending job opportunities overseas into cheap labor markets. Look at the deterioration in the school system, where today, last year, 44% of the young people, black, brown, red, yellow, and white, that graduated from high school graduated without being able to read at a high school level. Now, if 44% of the children that graduated last year are considered functionally illiterate, and there's no more manufacturing, that's overseas. And this is a service-oriented economy. And even those kind of jobs are going to India and Malaysia and other places. What is the future for you all unless we come together to begin to produce some of the things that we consume? So all the efforts that we did to stop the violence, stop the killing, now look at what is happening. In every funeral parlor in a major or minor city, you go to where we live, and you find those that are dead are from 18 to 45, and the number one killer is AIDS, the number two killer, gunshot wounds, the number three killer among us, suicide. What has happened in those last 10 years? No jobs? Okay. You either join the army and be all that you can never be, or you become a salesman and you're not selling for Amway, you're not selling for no way. So here's a little rock for you to sell. Here's some reefer for you to sell. Here's some territory for you to sell it in, and here's some guns to protect your territory. Now your brother's over there selling too. See? So now we've become gangs now. And we're filled now with the lust for the material thing, and we've been deprived of our humanity. And that's why it's so easy for us to put a cap. That means shoot one of your brothers or sisters and go home and eat not a dinner, but go to Wendy's or go to Burger King or go to McDonald's and eat after you've killed your own brother and sister. The loss of our humanity has taken place, brother and sister. And the young sisters, you beautiful young sisters, today the black woman is the number one conveyor of the AIDS virus. That's what they're telling us. How did you get it? Where did it come from? People have been having sex for millions and millions of years in all kinds of ways, and they ain't never come up with this. How come now, did I say something wrong? Oh. How come now we are filled with this virus? Well, look at the young boys that are being herded into prison now. When they go to prison, sometimes they're gang raped. I'm sure you've heard of this. And sometimes a strong brother in prison will take the young man and say, you be my B, and you'll get by. And that means he has to submit to somebody having sex with him. He has to submit to committing oral sex on men. He don't want to be a homosexual, but he's in a situation, he can't even tell his mother, Mommy, they gang raped me. Mommy, they're doing this to me. So when he comes out of prison, he comes to you, his girlfriend. He hasn't seen in 18 months or 2 years or 3 years. You know, he wants to be close. And so, thank you. And so that poor fella, they test him coming into prison to see if he got AIDS, but in some cases they never test them coming out. And then they have intercourse with their girlfriends and they're spreading this germ all over. So I'm saying we're in deep trouble, brother, because there's an equal and opposite reaction. And if you don't think so, watch what is done when all of us come into the room and say, we are ready now to think and plan for the whole of our people. There are powers that don't want to see that happen. So, brother, remember, we have enemies. And so when we plan, we have to secure what we do because the enemy is trying to take it away the minute we have it.
We have time for one more question.
Yes.
Good afternoon. My name is Victoria Kirby. I'm a freshman broadcast journalism major. And my question actually refers to what you just spoke about concerning the situation of our educational system in America in relation to our youth, and what can we do in order to help our younger brothers and sisters succeed in an institution that's set up to make us fail?
Well, you answered your question with your last word. The institutions are set up to make us fail. That's the sad travesty, not only to make us fail, but it seems to me that there's a purposeful dumbing down of the American people. When I graduated from high school in Boston, Massachusetts, I want you to hear what I had in terms of knowledge. In mathematics, I had algebra, plane geometry, solid geometry, trigonometry, and calculus. In science, I had physics, I had biology, I had chemistry. In language, I had 4 years of Latin, 2 years of German, 2 years of Spanish, 1 year of French. In history, I had ancient history, medieval history, modern history. When I graduated from grammar school, I knew every country on this earth and what those countries produced and their people. So when I graduated from high school and came south to go to a teacher's college, I never bought a book in 3 years because everything they were teaching, I already knew. So now I look at children today that can't read, children today that can't write, children today that are missing so much. It's because America is being gradually dumbed down. And if I may put it in a sort of a vile way, and I don't mean to be vulgar, but your heads are being put into your crotch because everything is sex, everything is shaking your backside, everything is this kind of behavior that makes humans to act like the lower animals. And as long as your head is in your crotch, you don't see what's happening to the world around you. So this is purposely done. So what we in the Millions More movement want to do is create a new educational paradigm, because this one is leaving all of America's children behind, and we believe we can do a better job, a better philosophy than Dewey, a better philosophy than Kant and Hegel, a better methodology, a better psychology than Freud and Jung. It's time now for black people to step up to the plate and do something new, for the scripture says, behold, I make all things new. That's what we're going to do with your help.
And on that challenge, we thank you for a very fascinating interview, and we thank our students for some truly informative and very, very interesting questions. This has been a very special one session with the remarkable Minister Farrakhan, and we thank you for joining us.
I thank you, Sister Renee. I thank this wonderful institution, the John H. Johnson School of Journalism. I thank all of the students for what they asked and the beauty of what you presented from your faces, from your eyes, from your hearts. And I pray that something that I have said has touched your heart and will inspire you to be the best that you can be, not just for yourself, not just for mommy and daddy who sacrificed to bring you here, but for your people who need your scholarship to take us to the next level of struggle. God bless you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Excellent. Wonderful. That was great. That was great. As usual. As usual. I mean, it's it's great to hear young people being informed and provocative in terms of their response, but, you point out so many challenges that we continue to have. And I was very pleased to hear about Harry's calling of this Council of Elders. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Oh, what he did.
When was it? It was in Atlanta on...
Last, son, when did we meet in Atlanta? Was it last Monday? The 1st of September.
Okay.
Harry, when he saw that little girl shackled, he said, like, I'm using a word that he didn't use, but it was like an epiphany for him. Mm-hmm. He knew that he had to do something. He had to go to jail. He had to do something to challenge the system. Mm-hmm. So he went to the chief of the Onondaga tribe that has been friendly with him over the years. And the chief said, whenever we had a problem that we wanted to solve, we called a meeting of the elders. Mm-hmm. And so he took that suggestion from the chief, and because he has such currency among so many, because he has literally helped so many, I didn't realize that Harry Belafonte was the great humanitarian giant that he is. But I mean, he's just marvelous. Mm-hmm. And so he called everybody that he could call, and they all responded.
Oh, that's fabulous.
And I tell you...